breaking news on your screens. The telecom space consolidation is heating up. Bharti Airtel has today announced that they will be acquiring 8 circles of Aircel for about 3,500 crore rupees. So this is specifically going to take place through their subsidiary, that is Bharti Hexacom. The aim is purely to expand in 4G because the clear-cut transition or sale of these spectrum has been across their 4G band. So basically, they'll be acquiring the 20 megahertz 2,300 band, which is basically for their 4G spectrum usage. This will be across the Bihar circle, the Tamil Nadu circle. This will include Chennai. This will be Jammu and Kashmir, West Bengal, Assam, Northeast, Andhra Pradesh and Orissa. Now, if you specifically look at the circles that they have acquired, this includes Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and Orissa, which Bharti had a very marginal presence in. So, the clear motive out and out at this point in time seems to be able to rapidly expand their 4G space. Remember, with RailJio launching, they have been looking at expanding. They've been talking to several players, including some of Aircel's direct competitors, some of the smaller players as well. There were reports that they were talking to TTSL as well. But yes, they have now taken in the entire Aircel's 4G footprint. Now, we don't know exactly what is the transition over and above the spectrum capacity. For now, it looks like only the spectrum capacity and the spectrum across 8 circles will be sold cleanly. The valuation is interesting. It's about 3,500 crore rupees for 8 circles. I think the largest exposure will be for the Tamil Nadu circle, for the West Bengal circle and for Andhra Pradesh. Because if you look at the kind of presence that Aircel seems to have in the other circles. For instance, the Orissa circle is fairly smaller. The Northeast circle, the Assam circle is smaller for Aircel. I'll give you the breakup in just a bit once we have it. But it looks like the exposure seems to be specifically in the areas where Airtel didn't have. We in fact have Mahesh Uppal with us. Mr. Uppal, as you heard the news, 8 circles have been sold of Aircel to Bharti Airtel. They'll be taking it for about 3,500 crore rupees. Before I ask you the rationale, do you think that the valuation is fairly low for 8 circles?
Look, in most cases, the valuation for the spectrum will depend to a large extent on the nature of the circle, not on the number of circles involved. Now, as you know, if there are circles, then clearly the valuations are very high. For metros, they're very high. But the circles involved in this deal, as far as I can see, are not A circles or metros. So that might explain some of the reason. And some of the circles are, in fact, C circles where, as you know, the spectrum prices tend to be low. And I suspect the other thing that would have happened is that Aircel is able to part with a large part of its spectrum in one go. That would be of some interest to Aircel, particularly if it is left with only that spectrum which is relatively low demand, as in C circles. Recall that C circles do not even have sufficiently deep 3G presence currently, or 3G services are not have not rolled out all the way in 3G circles even now. So 4G spectrum in 3G in C circles is not currently seen as urgently necessary or necessary in the very, very short term. So given all that, given the fact that the demand for 4G spectrum in C circles will be low, and a large number of circles involved are, in fact, some of those, I think the price is not that difficult to understand. It'll be very difficult to talk on the exact number, but I would imagine that the sum is not that much of a problem, no, or that difficult to understand.
Mr. Uppal, as you said, that C circles are typically lower value. What seems to be the rationale behind Airtel acquiring 8 circles specifically all across C circles? Is this simply to be able to expand larger footprint across 4G, or would this be to be able to get larger capacity as well?
Well, obviously it is both, because the fact is everybody knows that data services will have to expand to a very great extent in the next few years. Clearly, as of now, there is a huge potential for data services to expand, and when that is the case, clearly 4G spectrum, which has the largest capacity in terms of speed, etc., to offer, is of value. However, given that this market has not yet emerged and that it is likely to be developed, especially by incumbents like Airtel,
Right.
I think they were able to both take advantage of their willingness to take this exposure at this stage, and also the fact that Aircel needs to reduce debt, etc. So I would imagine that it is something that both sides would be happy to, because otherwise it might have been not that attractive. The 4G,
Right.
C-circle spectrum for 4G may not be as attractive in the immediate, right away. It will be coming.
I agree. Mr. Uppal, just hang in there. Let me get Amit Sachdeva in as well. Amit, you heard Mr. Uppal point out how the C-circle are not as immediate in terms of requirement for 4G footprint expansion. What do you think would be Bharti Airtel's rationale to acquire this? And your comments on the valuation, because it seems to be a very good deal for Bharti Airtel. And, Aircel perhaps hasn't gotten the best possible deal out of this. What would you say to that?
So I just want to give you a quick background. If you look at Aircel had a 4G BW spectrum for 8 circles.
Yeah.
So all those 8 circles have been taken.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're cherry picked. So all the circles have been taken. That's the first point. Second, I think there is a science behind when you come to the pricing. Again, the basis of the pricing is the auction price, which typically was for the 2300 BWS spectrum auction, which happened around, I think, 6 years back. So these licenses were for a period of 20 years. Now, whether it is a tier 1 circle, tier 2 or tier 3, I think most of these licenses are being looked at from amortized value perspective. And obviously there is a cost of capital. So based on that, I would say the calculation would have been, it could be plus minus few percentage points, depending on, like Mr. Uppal said, whether it is tier 1, tier 2 or tier 3.
Okay.
Tier 1 is obviously in high demand, like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. Those are the circles which are in demand. But I'm assuming, given the current market, there is a science behind it, and it would be based on those basic fundamental principles.
Amit, running out of time, just help me understand how exactly would Bharti Airtel gain an edge over its peers? If you take Rel Jio, if you take Vodafone and Idea, which will also be launching their 4G in parts through the year, how much of an edge do they get by taking the entire 4G footprint of Aircel?
So as we know, if you look at most of the telco players, and not only in India but globally, the fundamental for telecom business is what is the spectrum you have. And as data services grew at a much faster pace, there is a requirement for higher spectrum. And obviously the player who holds a better spectrum in terms of volume as well as quality of spectrum.
Right.
When I say quality, it obviously depends on whether it is a 1900, 1800 or 2300 or a future spectrum which government plans to auction for bands lower than 900.
Right.
So that definitely, an operator who's got a higher volume and a better quality definitely has an edge.
All right, Mahesh Uppal, Amit Sachdeva, thank you so much for speaking to CNBC TV 18. Lots of questions left unanswered. Hopefully, we should be getting you the management over the course of the day. But Shireen, on that note, it's back to you.